My name is Junia. I was 25 in 2018, buried in the endless gray winters of Boston, chasing my graduate degree in sociology. People always say grad school is a marathon, not a sprint, but no one tells you about the loneliness, the sleepless nights in libraries that smelled like dust and old books, the coffee-fueled mornings where your only friend is the hum of a laptop fan. Still, I believed in what I was doing. My thesis wasn't just a paper, it was a piece of my soul. I was exploring the intersection of social media and identity formation in young adults, how platforms like Instagram and Twitter didn't just reflect who we were, but actively shaped who we became. It was new, bold, and deeply personal. My advisor, Professor Langford, had always encouraged me. He was one of those effortlessly charming academics. Silver hair, tweed jackets, a voice that carried authority. When he said, "Junia, this is groundbreaking work," my heart soared. I trusted him. I shouldn't have. One January morning, I stumbled into the campus bookstore to buy a secondhand notebook. The shelves were stacked with the usual suspects: dense texts, overpriced anthologies. But there, on the display table, a brand new book caught my eye. The title hit me like a slap: The Self We Curate, Social Media, and Modern Identity. My chest went hollow. My hands shook as I picked it up. I flipped through the pages, chapter titles, arguments, even phrasing. They were mine. The core of my thesis, word for word, dressed in glossy hardcover. And the author's name? Dr. Malcolm Langford. I stood frozen in that bookstore aisle, the world tilting sideways, my breath caught in my throat. It was like watching someone tear open my ribcage, rip out my heart, and parade it as their own. Students bustled around me, unaware that my entire life had just been gutted. I staggered outside, cold Boston wind biting at my face. My mind screamed, "This can't be real. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's..." But deep down, I knew. He had taken my research, my idea, my dream. He'd stolen it clean out of my hands and stamped his name on it. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, surrounded by drafts, notes, and highlighted articles. Proof? Receipts. Every scrap of evidence that what he published wasn't his, it was mine. And as I stared at the pile, rage rose up in me like fire. For weeks, I had been invisible, just another grad student with ink on her fingers. But he had crossed a line. He thought I was powerless. He was wrong. I whispered to myself in the dark, "If he wants a fight, I'll give him one." I slept for 3 hours that night and woke with the book's title burned into my eyelids. The rage that had been hot and immediate after the discovery cooled into something more useful: calculation. Anger makes you loud. Strategy makes you dangerous. First, I did what any early career academic would do. I cataloged everything: drafts, timestamps, saved emails, cloud folders, notes in the margins of printed articles. I made a list on a yellow legal pad: dates, file names, conversations, witnesses. Every small detail I had ever thought was insignificant suddenly looked like a breadcrumb trail. Mara was the first person I told. She lived upstairs, thesis on a different floor, and had the blunt, fierce loyalty of someone who grew up with both parents in the Navy. Pragmatic, never sentimental. "Show me," she said, taking the book like it weighed nothing. I spread my notes across her kitchen table. He published 3 months after my conference presentation. He was CC'd on emails where I had attached the draft. My draft metadata shows last edit 9 months ago. The book's footnotes even paraphrase my survey questions. Mara whistled through her teeth. "That's brazen." "Brazen is one thing. Tenure and a press release are another." I rubbed my temples. "He's untouchable if the department circles the wagons." Mara didn't blink. "Then make them look ridiculous." I needed proof that couldn't be dismissed as coincidence or parallel thinking. I needed the raw files, the metadata, the server logs, the kind of receipts that would survive a dean's rationalization. I spent the next week like a ghost in the department. I checked course reserves and old email threads. I sat in the library's special collections reading room and quietly photographed draft pages I'd shown him during office hours. I traced the citation trail backward and forward, snagging references that only I had used in my annotated bibliography. Citations from obscure community interviews I'd conducted at a halfway house that no one else would have thought to include. The more I looked, the clearer the pattern became. Paragraphs rearranged, sentences reframed. My framing language adopted wholesale. He had the voice of a senior scholar, but he had used my scaffolding. One afternoon, in the department printer room, a grad student named Omar, a quiet guy who tutored undergrads in statistics, slipped me a flash drive with a look that said, "I don't ask, I help." "You won't post it online," he said. "Not yet, but make copies, safe copies." He didn't want drama. He wanted the truth to have teeth. With the drive, I could get into the file histories, the revision history, the early PDF with my name in the properties. I could trace the draft back to dates that predated his book contract. But accessing certain server logs required someone who knew more than I did. Enter Professor Evelyn Cho, the adjunct who taught qualitative methods and smelled like jasmine tea. She'd been on the department's tech committee 2 years before, and still had access to some institutional archives. She was careful, private, but inside her was a kind of academic stubbornness I admired. I approached her after a methods workshop, palms damp. "Professor Cho, I need advice. I think my advisor took my work." Evelyn's face didn't change. "Show me." I handed over the book, my packets, the flash drive. She read with a librarian's patience, flipping pages, tapping margins. "This reads like appropriation," she said finally. "Not a citation lapse. This is systemic, but be strategic. You can't just scream plagiarism at a tenured professor and expect safety." "What then?" My voice shook. "Document everything, get witnesses, and make a route that channels the complaint where it has to stick. And Junia, be prepared for gaslighting. They'll call you ambitious, disgruntled, bitter. Don't let them own your language." Evelyn slipped a card with a university phone number into my hand. A contact in archives who could pull server logs and email metadata. I felt both vindicated and terrified. We planned quiet moves. Evelyn requested a restricted pull of email headers from the year before, under the guise of a methodological audit. Omar cloned the files and encrypted them. Mara organized a timeline of public events: my conference, his invited lecture, the book contract announcement. The campus rotated through its usual rhythms: seminars, coffee breaks, petty departmental theft of staplers. But underneath the hum, I felt the slow tightening of a net. And the first few strands were my own. When I finally sat across from Langford in his office and asked a neutral question about chronology. "Professor, when did you finalize the manuscript?" His smile was the practiced academic smile of a predator surprised to be noticed. "Junia, why the sudden interest?" he asked. "If you have concerns, you know the channels. I didn't say you stole my work. Instead, I asked, would you mind if I cited passages from your recent book in my chapter? I want to engage with your framework." He gave a small laugh that smelled of contempt. "Of course, that's what dialogue is." I left with a smile that was a mask. The victory was small but precious, his assent on record. It meant he had publicly acknowledged the text I was claiming. It meant he had placed himself in the conversation. That night, I uploaded 3 files to a private cloud with end-to-end encryption and emailed copies to 2 trusted scholars outside the university, people who owed me nothing and whose reputations mattered. At 2 a.m., while the city was quiet, my inbox pinged. A message subject line, from M.U. Langford, read draft. The body contained 1 sentence and a link to a document in the departmental shared drive. My chest froze. I clicked. The document was a draft. His name on the file, but the revision history showed an upload timestamp that matched the day I'd last edited my version. And there, buried in page 3, was my phrase, my sentence, exactly as I'd written it months earlier. It was proof, not definitive in court maybe, but damning. I was about to download it when my screen blinked and the file vanished. Deleted from the shared drive. A system log message popped up. File removed by admin. Admin, someone with access, someone watching. My heartbeat stuttered. I typed my reply fast, fingers trembling. Who deleted that file and hit send? The reply arrived in seconds. "Don't make trouble, Junia," the email read. "Some battles are costly." No signature. My hands went numb. Someone had noticed me pulling the thread. And that was when I knew this wouldn't be a quiet academic fight. It was a war of reputations, privileges, and networks. He had allies. So did I. But the allies hid in unexpected places. At 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a direct message from a verified academic forum. Anonymous, but with a handle I recognized from an old seminar thread. "If you want him to fall, don't go to the administration. Make them watch you. make the public watch him. Under the message was a link, a page hosting a call-out post, scholarly, measured, quoting sources, and offering to archive primary materials. My fingers hovered on the keyboard. If I made this public, I would invite a spotlight that could burn me, or burn him, or both. I thought of the book at the bookstore and the cold fakery of Langford's smile. I thought of Evelyn's warning to be strategic. I thought of Mara, Omar, and the flash drive in my pocket. And then I pressed publish. The upload wheel spun. The university server logs would see it. Someone else would too. The morning after I hit publish, Boston felt sharper. The snow cracked under my boots, the air cut colder, the city louder. Or maybe it was just me. My nerves frayed, my adrenaline still buzzing. By the time I reached campus, my post was already spreading. A few likes, a few reposts on academic Twitter, quiet whispers in hallways. Mara texted me a screenshot. "Junia, this is catching fire." In the cafe line, 2 students leaned in close, whispering. When I caught their eyes, they looked away fast. The university doesn't like noise. It thrives on polished brochures, quiet prestige, reputations untarnished. And I had just lit a flare. By noon, the department chair summoned me. Dr. Helena Moreau, 70, iron gray hair, voice clipped like she cut each word with scissors. "Junia," she said, closing her office door behind me, "do you understand what you've done?" I kept my voice steady. I shared evidence of misconduct. Her lips thinned. Accusations against a tenured professor on a public forum, without first following internal procedures. That is reckless, irresponsible. Do you realize how this reflects on the department? I wanted to shout, "It reflects that you protect thieves." Instead, I said calmly, "It reflects the truth." Her eyes narrowed. "You are jeopardizing your future. Do you want to finish your degree here or not?" I walked out without answering, because I knew what she meant. Sit down, shut up, let the system bury me. But I wasn't burying anything, not anymore. That night, the post tripled in reach. A mid-tier sociology blogger picked it up, adding commentary. If substantiated, this case raises serious questions about academic integrity in elite institutions. The words "if substantiated" echoed like a dare. The next day, Langford made his move. He emailed the department, a carefully worded statement, calling my post an unfortunate misunderstanding, suggesting I had confused shared mentorship with collaboration, and claiming my passion had led me astray. He painted me as naive, emotional, a girl who didn't understand the boundaries of scholarship. And people believed him, or pretended to. By evening, the gossip thickened. A faculty member brushed past me in the corridor and muttered, "You should be ashamed." Omar slipped me a note. "They're closing ranks. Stay sharp." Mara slammed her hand on my desk. "He's trying to gaslight you, Junia. This is classic. Don't let them flip the script." But fear crept in. What if I lost my funding? What if no program touched me again? What if my name became academic poison? I lay awake that night, staring at the cracked ceiling of my apartment, heart hammering. The thought looped, what if they ruin me before I ruin him? At 3 a.m., another message lit my phone. Same anonymous forum handle as before. "He's playing reputation chess. Don't play defense. Play spectacle. You want to win? Step on a bigger stage." Attached was a link, an open application for TEDx Boston. Theme: Truth in the Digital Age. I sat there shaking, staring at the screen. Expose him quietly and risk silence. Or go loud, go public, go undeniable. The choice burned inside me. By dawn, I had filled out the application. The TEDx confirmation email landed in my inbox 2 weeks later. "Dear Junia, we are pleased to invite you to present at TEDx Boston 2018. Theme: Truth in the Digital Age. Please prepare a talk of 12-15 minutes. I stared at the screen, my stomach flipping. This was it. The kind of platform no dean could silence, no department could bury. But it was also exposure. The bigger the stage, the harder they'd try to pull me off it. Mara was the first I told. She grabbed my shoulders and grinned. "Junia, this is it. You burn bright, you burn him." Omar was quieter. He slid a folder across the cafe table. Metadata logs. Evelyn helped me access them. They show the exact timestamps when your draft left your folder and appeared in Langford's. There's no denying this. I flipped through the printouts. The evidence was damning. Hard proof that couldn't be brushed off as coincidence. My heart pounded. Relief, vindication, but also dread. Because with evidence this strong, The backlash would be nuclear. That same week, the department released an internal memo, carefully worded but clear in its subtext. Students were reminded to respect scholarly hierarchies, to avoid public defamation, and to remember the prestige of the institution depends on professional decorum. Translation: shut up or be crushed. Then came the personal blow. Langford cornered me in the hallway after seminar. His smile was razor-thin. Junia, I admire your ambition, but ambition without discretion is dangerous. You're playing with fire. I felt my throat tighten, but I held his gaze. Funny, fire was mine first. You just tried to steal it. His smile flickered, then hardened. He leaned closer. TEDx won't save you. You'll embarrass yourself, and when you do, the only thing people will remember is that you were the student who couldn't cut it. I walked away before my legs gave out. Behind me, his voice followed. Some lessons are best learned the hard way. That night, I rehearsed in front of my mirror, the words catching in my throat. I imagined the red circle on the TEDx stage, the lights, the cameras, the faces staring back. I imagined speaking the truth into the world so loudly it couldn't be ignored. But I also imagined silence afterward. Emails unanswered, doors closed, a future destroyed. Mara leaned against my doorway as I practiced. Say it like you're talking to the girl who found that book in the store, she said. Talk to her, convince her that she's not crazy, that she's not powerless. I swallowed hard, nodded, and started again. This time, the words flowed like fire. 3 days before the event, another email arrived. This one from the dean's office. Junia, in light of recent concerns, we strongly advise you to reconsider your participation in TEDx Boston. Failure to comply may affect your academic standing. My stomach dropped. This was no longer just reputation. This was my degree, my future, my life. I forwarded the email to Evelyn. Her reply came fast. They're bluffing. They don't want the liability of outright censorship. But you need to be ready. If you go on that stage, you will make enemies you can't unmake. I stared at the glowing red TEDx logo on the confirmation form. The choice loomed again, sharper this time. Stay quiet and finish safely, or speak and risk everything. I thought of Langford's smirk. I thought of the book on the shelf with his name instead of mine. And I clicked confirm attendance. The countdown had begun. The days before TEDx blurred into a haze of fear and adrenaline. I rehearsed in front of Mara until my voice cracked, pacing her living room like it was already a stage. Omar timed me with a stopwatch, nodding silently when I hit the right rhythm. Evelyn adjusted my slides, reminding me to strip away jargon. Make them feel your words. Make it human. But as I built my speech, Langford built his traps. On Wednesday, an email went out to the graduate student listserv, unsigned but obvious in tone. Professional decorum is essential. Beware of students who seek attention by slandering respected faculty. I read it 3 times. My hands shook. The subtext wasn't subtle. It was me, branded a liar. That night, my stipend payment didn't arrive. When I checked with financial services, they claimed there was a processing error. Processing error the same week I was about to stand on stage? I wasn't stupid. Langford had reach, and he was flexing it. Mara pounded her fist on the table when I told her. He wants you rattled. Don't give him the satisfaction. Easier said than done. Rent was due in 5 days. Omar quietly passed me an envelope the next morning. Inside was $200 cash. Borrow it. Pay me back after you're famous. My throat tightened. I didn't argue. Meanwhile, the whispers grew louder. In the library, I caught students staring, then ducking when I met their eyes. In seminar, a professor praised Langford's contributions to the field, with a pointed glance in my direction. It was suffocating, a campaign not to destroy me outright, but to isolate me, to make me doubt myself until I crumbled. The night before TEDx, Evelyn pulled me aside. Her eyes were tired but sharp. Junia, listen, they're going to try one last time to stop you. If they can't cancel the event, they'll smear you harder after. Expect it. Prepare for it. I nodded, though fear gnawed at me. Back in my apartment, I stood in front of the mirror one last time, red lipstick on, voice hoarse from practice. I whispered to my reflection, "You are not small. You are not powerless." And then my phone buzzed. An email notification. From Malcolm Langford. Subject, final warning. I hesitated, then opened it. One line, cold and precise. Step on that stage tomorrow and you'll regret it for the rest of your career. No signature needed. My hands trembled. My reflection stared back at me, pale but burning. For a moment, fear almost won. Almost. I clicked reply. My fingers flew. See you tomorrow, Professor. I'll make sure you get a front row seat. I hit send. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. The TEDx theater was packed. Rows of folding chairs stretched under stage lights, faces lit by the glow of phones. The iconic red circle burned on the floor like a target. Backstage, I thought I might faint. My knees shook, my palms were damp. Mara squeezed my hand. You're ready. Remember, you're not just telling them what happened. You're telling them why it matters. Omar gave me a thumbs up from the audience row, already setting up his phone to record. Evelyn leaned against the wall, her eyes steady, her presence like an anchor. Junia Cole, the announcer called. The lights blinded me as I stepped out. Applause washed over me, warm but terrifying. My chest tightened, but then I saw it. The front row. Langford. He sat with his legs crossed, a faint smile tugging at his lips, as if daring me to falter. My heart lurched. I walked to the circle, adjusted the mic, and began. At 25, I thought I understood the rules of graduate school. Work hard, study harder, contribute something new. What I didn't understand was how fragile ideas are, and how easily they can be stolen. The words trembled at first, but then steadied. I told the story of the bookstore, the book with his name on it. I told them about metadata, about drafts, about what it feels like to watch your life's work paraded under someone else's banner. But I didn't name him, not yet. Instead, I focused on the system. We live in a culture that says, trust your mentors. But what happens when mentors take without giving? When the power imbalance is so steep that silence feels safer than truth. The room was silent. I saw faces leaning forward, eyes locked on me. Langford shifted in his seat, the smile fading. I pressed on. My voice grew stronger. I was told not to speak. I was told it would ruin my career. But here's the truth. Silence was already ruining it. Silence was already making me complicit. I let the words hang. Then I looked directly at him. So I'm done being silent. A ripple went through the room. Phones went up, recording. Somewhere in the back, applause started. Small, hesitant. Then grew louder, spreading like a wave. Langford's face hardened, pale in the glow of 100 screens. I ended with this. Truth in the digital age isn't just about what we say online. It's about refusing to let the powerful rewrite our stories. My name is Junia. This is my story, and I am taking it back. The theater erupted. Cheers, claps, a standing ovation. I stood there, breathless, tears hot in my eyes. But even through the applause, I saw him. Langford rose from his seat, lips pressed tight, and walked out. Not defeated, not yet, but shaken. And I knew the war wasn't over. It had only gone public. By the time I left the TEDx stage, my phone was already buzzing. Backstage, Mara hugged me tight, her voice breaking. You killed it, Junia. You lit the room on fire. Omar showed me the video on his phone. The applause, the standing ovation. Evelyn just nodded, eyes wet, whispering. They can't unhear it now. But Langford's shadow trailed me. By midnight, the video had hit Twitter. Clips spread across academic circles, then beyond. Students from other universities retweeted. Professors debated. Strangers added hashtags. Truth in the digital age? How Junia speaks. How academic theft. By morning, it had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. Emails pouring into my inbox. Messages of solidarity. Confessions from other grad students. Even a few from faculty admitting they'd had work stolen too. But the hate came just as fast. Anonymous comments sneered. Disgruntled student exaggerates for fame. Others accused me of slander, of immaturity, of trying to cancel a respected scholar. A blog even published a piece titled, The Fragility of Millennials in Academia. Langford himself moved quickly. At 9 a.m., the university's PR office released a statement. We are aware of recent allegations raised in a public forum. Dr. Malcolm Langford is a valued member of our faculty. We encourage all parties to respect due process. Due process. Code for stall, silence, bury. Mara paced my apartment, fuming. They're circling wagons. They want to wait until the story dies. But it wasn't dying. It was growing. By noon, a major Boston newspaper called me for comment. That evening, NPR emailed asking for an interview. And then came the knock. I opened the door to find an envelope slid under it. Inside, a printed letter on university letterhead. Effective immediately, your stipend and research privileges are suspended pending review of conduct violations. My chest went cold. This wasn't just pressure anymore. It was retaliation. I slumped to the floor, the paper shaking in my hands. My career wasn't dangling. It was already being cut. But as the panic clawed at me, my phone buzzed again. A message from the same anonymous academic forum handle. Good, now they're scared. That means you're winning. Don't retreat. Double down. Take the evidence public. All of it. I stared at the flash drive Omar had given me. The one with the metadata logs, the raw timestamps. If I released it, there'd be no coming back. No safe return to academia. No quiet life. But maybe that was the point. I whispered to myself, clutching the drive. If he wants a war, he's got one. The flash drive sat on my desk like a live grenade. Every time I glanced at it, I felt the weight of what it held. File histories, metadata logs, timestamps tying my words to his stolen draft. Evidence too solid to ignore. But once released, there would be no taking it back. Mara slammed a mug of coffee on the table. Stop staring at it, Junia. Use it. You don't win wars by holding your fire. Omar adjusted his glasses, cautious. Wait. If she dumps everything at once, they'll say she's reckless. We need strategy, a controlled release, verified archives, timestamps, independent backing. Evelyn nodded. He's right. One misstep, and they'll twist it back on you. But if you time it right... Her voice trailed off. I looked at each of them, my allies, my only circle, and I knew Omar was right. This had to be more than noise. It had to be undeniable. That night, I reached out to a contact who had DM'd me after TEDx. A mid-level journalist at the Chronicle of Higher Education. She'd written about academic scandals before. I sent her a teaser, one screenshot of the metadata, paired with a simple line. There's more where this came from. She replied in minutes. Meet me, confidential, tomorrow. The next day we met in a quiet cafe near Harvard Square. Her recorder clicked on, her eyes sharp. I slid the drive across the table. This isn't just my career, I whispered. This is proof that the system lets people like him take from people like me. She opened the files, scrolling through logs, her eyebrows lifting. This is gold. If this checks out, it'll blow the roof off. But before I could feel relief, she leaned closer. You realize he'll come for you harder after this. He has lawyers. He has money. You're walking into a storm. I swallowed. Then I'll walk through it. 2 days later, the article dropped. Headline: Professor accused of plagiarism. Metadata tells a different story. It included screenshots, side-by-side comparisons, timelines. It didn't name me as the sole whistleblower, but the subtext was clear. The reaction was nuclear. Twitter exploded. Students protested outside the administration building, chanting, "Truth for Junia." Faculty scrambled for statements. The university tried to stay neutral, but silence was starting to look like complicity. And Langford? He lawyered up. His counsel issued a statement calling the allegations a smear campaign by a disgruntled student. He hinted at defamation suits, but the damage was done. His book deal was suddenly under review. His keynote at an upcoming conference was quietly canceled. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hunted. Because the night the article went live, I found a note slipped under my apartment door. Truth has a price. Are you ready to pay it? No signature. Just those words, in black ink. I clutched the note, my pulse racing. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about academia anymore. It was bigger. And it was about to get darker. The note under my door haunted me. I kept it in the drawer of my desk, folded and sharp like a blade. Truth has a price. Are you ready to pay it? I thought it was just Langford's intimidation game, but by the end of the week, I realized this was bigger. First, my email account was hacked. At 3 a.m, Mara shook me awake, holding up her phone. Junia, your Dropbox is gone. Gone. My drafts, my surveys, my recordings, all wiped. A hollow pit opened in my chest. We'd saved backups, sure, but the violation was worse than the loss. Someone had been inside my work, inside me. Omar recovered what he could, but his face was grim. This wasn't random. This was professional. They knew exactly what to target. The next day, my apartment buzzer rang. When I answered, there was no one. Just a package left on the steps. Inside, a copy of Langford's book, pages slashed with red ink. On the title page, 3 words were scrawled. "Drop it now." My hands shook as I held it. Mara grabbed it from me and cursed. "They're trying to scare you." "Yeah," I whispered, "and it's working." But fear wasn't the only emotion burning in me. Anger clawed just as hard. They wanted me silent. Every scare tactic proved how afraid they were. Meanwhile, the Chronicle article had snowballed. More outlets picked it up. Hashtags trended. Students demanded investigations. A petition for Langford's suspension gained thousands of signatures overnight. And then NPR aired my interview. I hadn't used his name directly, but I spoke of the culture of theft, the fear of speaking up, the way silence protects predators. My voice shook on the radio, but it was mine. My truth. That night, Evelyn called me. Her voice was low, urgent. "Junia, I just left a faculty meeting. It's worse than you think. Langford isn't alone. Half the department is invested in protecting him. Grants, publications, reputation. He's their golden goose. If he falls, they fall." Her words chilled me. This wasn't one man. It was a network. "They'll stop at nothing," Evelyn whispered. "And now they've decided you're the threat." As if on cue, another email hit my inbox. No subject, just an attachment. Against my better judgment, I opened it. A single photo filled the screen, me walking home, taken from across the street. I gasped, bile rising in my throat. Someone had been watching me. I slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. Mara grabbed my shoulders. "Junia, this isn't just academic politics anymore. This is dangerous." For a moment, I thought of giving in, dropping everything, disappearing. But then I remembered the standing ovation, the students chanting, the people writing me their own stolen stories. If I gave up, it wasn't just my voice I'd lose. It was all of ours. I lifted the flash drive from my pocket, holding it like a weapon. "Then let them watch, because I'm not stopping." But even as I said it, fear curled in my stomach. Because now I knew this wasn't a fight for credit anymore. It was a fight for survival. The photo of me walking home stayed burned in my mind. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw the shadow of the lens, the invisible watcher. Fear wanted me to shrink, to curl inward. But anger made me stand taller. If they wanted me afraid, I'd make sure the world saw it. Mara was furious. "Junia, this is stalking. You need the police." But when I filed a report, the officer barely looked up from his screen. "Unless you know who left it, there's not much we can do. Just be careful. Be careful," as if I hadn't been careful for months. Omar leaned over my kitchen table, tapping the drive. "If they're escalating, so should you. You have the evidence, the platform, the attention. Don't play defense anymore. Play offense." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Go bigger," he said. "National media. A TED Talk opened the door. Now walk through it. Don't just accuse Langford. Expose the system that protects him." The idea terrified me, but also lit a spark. That night, I drafted an open letter. Not a whimper, not a plea, a manifesto. I told my story, named names, listed dates, included metadata screenshots. I described the retaliation, the stalking, the threats, and then I widened it, quoting other students' testimonies, citing academic cases swept under the rug. I ended with this: "We were told to be silent. We are done being silent." Mara cried reading it. "This is it, Junia. This isn't just your fight anymore." Evelyn warned me gently. "Once you send this, you can't come back. Academia won't forgive you. They'll blacklist you. They'll brand you a troublemaker forever." I met her eyes. "Then I'll build something outside it, but I won't live in their silence anymore." The next morning, I hit publish. The letter spread faster than the TEDx clip. Twitter exploded again, but this time the hashtags were bigger. Academic reform, end the silence, Junia Cole. Students from other universities began sharing their own stories under the tag. Within hours, it wasn't just about me, it was a movement. CNN requested an interview. The New York Times reached out. A podcast host invited me to tell my story to millions of listeners. Langford responded with fury. His lawyers filed a cease and desist, demanding my letter be taken down. But it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. The more they tried to erase me, the louder my story grew. But the backlash intensified too. Late that night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A voice hissed through static. "Stop, Junia, or next time it won't just be photos." The line went dead. My hands shook, but I pressed record on my phone. If they wanted to threaten me, I'd make even that part of the story. Because by now, I understood the truth. The more they came for me, the more proof the world had that I was right. And I was done hiding. By the third day after my letter, I wasn't just Junia Cole, the grad student, anymore. I was a headline. CNN aired a segment with my photo beside the words, "The whistleblower shaking academia." The New York Times ran an op-ed calling my story a turning point for student rights. My inbox flooded. Offers from advocacy groups, invites to panels, even a request from a documentary crew. But with the spotlight came the heat. Langford's legal team filed a defamation suit. The university issued a formal investigation, a thinly veiled stall tactic. Anonymous trolls ramped up their harassment, doxing my address, flooding my social media with threats. And yet, amid the chaos, support kept growing. Students across the country staged sit-ins, holding signs with my name. Professors quietly DM'd me, sharing their own stolen work stories. A senator even tweeted, "Protect students, protect truth, proud of Junia." The ground was shifting, I could feel it. But it scared me too, because the bigger this got, the more dangerous it became. Mara kept reminding me, "You're not alone. Look around. You started something." Omar was practical. Movements attract allies, but also opportunists. Be careful who you trust now. Evelyn warned me of something else. "Junia, the university is panicking. They're considering making you the villain to protect themselves. They might paint you as unstable, difficult, even dangerous. That's how institutions survive scandals, by sacrificing the whistleblower." Her words hit me like ice, because I could see it happening already. A local paper ran a smear piece. Junia Cole's troubled past, can she be trusted? It exaggerated minor things. A late tuition payment, an incomplete class, twisting them into a narrative of instability. Langford, meanwhile, doubled down on his innocence. At a press conference, he stood flanked by lawyers and colleagues. His voice was smooth, steady. "These allegations are baseless. I have mentored hundreds of students with integrity. It saddens me that one has chosen to tarnish not only my reputation, but the reputation of this great institution." He paused, letting the cameras soak in his sincerity. "And I will fight this, not just for myself, but for all scholars who dedicate their lives to truth." Watching it on TV, my stomach turned. He was good, too good. Mara threw a pillow at the screen. He's acting like a saint. But the public wasn't so easily swayed. The hashtag #TruthForJunia trended again. Protesters carried signs. "Metadata doesn't lie." Clips from my TEDx talk hit 1 million views. For every smear, there was pushback. Still, I felt the strain. The constant interviews, the threats, the lawyers circling like sharks. Every time I walked home, I looked over my shoulder. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced myself. And then, one night, Omar burst into my apartment, eyes wide. "Junia," he said, holding up his laptop. "It's bigger than we thought." I traced some of the troll accounts. They're not random. They're linked to PR firms. Paid. Coordinated. My breath caught. Langford wasn't just defending himself. He had a machine behind him. And if I didn't outpace it, it would crush me. When Omar showed me the troll network traced back to PR firms, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just a man with stolen ideas. This was an industry of silence, polished and packaged by professionals who knew how to bury people like me. Mara's fists clenched. "So it's not just Langford. It's the whole rotten tower holding him up." Evelyn sighed heavily. "And towers don't fall easy, Junia. They protect their foundations at all costs." That night, I sat awake, staring at the ceiling. If I fought only in academia's language, papers, conferences, investigations, I'd lose. They own that system, but if I stepped outside it, maybe I could rewrite the rules. The next morning, I called the Chronicle journalist. "I want to go deeper, not just one article, a series. A full exposé on academic theft and the cover-ups that enable it." She hesitated. "That's huge, Junia. Do you have more sources?" I thought of the DMs piling in from other students. Confessions whispered in fear. "Yes," I said. "Dozens." We set up encrypted channels. Within days, testimonies flooded in. PhD candidates whose supervisors published their ideas, postdocs whose credit was erased, junior faculty silenced to protect senior stars. The stories formed a pattern, a system, not accidents, not mistakes, a culture. Omar built a site overnight, the Academic Truth Project, a place to upload stories anonymously, verified through metadata when possible. Mara handled the social media campaign, pushing hashtags, making sure no one could ignore it. And suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore. Every day, new voices joined, some anonymous, some brave enough to attach their names. Each story amplified mine, turning Langford from a respected professor under attack into the face of a nationwide reckoning. Of course, the pushback grew harsher. Langford's lawyers sent threatening letters to the Chronicle, to me, even to Omar. One faculty member cornered Evelyn after a meeting, hissing that she was ruining her career by siding with a child. And then came the smear campaign 2.0. Fake accounts popped up with my name, posting rants I'd never written. Blogs spread evidence I had fabricated my data. It was exhausting, soul-crushing. One night, scrolling through another wave of hate, I broke down. Maybe they're right, I whispered to Mara. Maybe I'm just destroying myself. She grabbed my chin, forcing me to meet her eyes. No, look at what you've built. Look at how many people are speaking now because you refuse to shut up. That's not destruction, Junia. That's change. Her words steadied me. The next morning, CNN aired a panel on academic theft. They used my TEDx clip to open the segment. My name was in the chyron. And then mid-broadcast, the anchor said, "We've invited Professor Malcolm Langford to respond." He declined our request. My heart leapt. For the first time, he wasn't controlling the narrative. He was hiding, and that told me something vital. The machine might be powerful, but it was bleeding. For a week, the silence from Langford was almost satisfying. No public statements, no appearances, just absence. But predators don't stay quiet forever. It began with a leak. One morning, my phone buzzed with dozens of notifications. A blog had published exclusive documents. My old therapy notes, somehow pulled from a private insurance file. Scribbled sentences, half-truths ripped from context. Junia struggles with anxiety, feelings of paranoia, difficulty trusting authority. My heart dropped into my stomach. They weren't just attacking my work anymore. They were attacking my mind. Mara stormed into my apartment, waving her phone. "This is illegal. This is disgusting. They hacked your medical files." Omar's jaw tightened. Classic tactic. Undermine the messenger, not the message. Evelyn was gentler, but her voice shook. "Junia, they're going to try to brand you unstable. If they succeed, it won't matter what evidence you have." I felt raw, exposed. My private pain, weaponized against me. By evening, Langford made his move. He appeared on a live-streamed panel, framed by bookshelves, calm as ever. "It saddens me deeply," he said, "that a student struggling with mental health issues has projected her pain onto me. I wish her healing, but these allegations are fantasies, not facts." The audience nodded, some sympathetic, some skeptical. I wanted to scream. Fantasies? Metadata doesn't lie. Plagiarized passages don't invent themselves. But his calm voice, his feigned compassion, was poison. The smear spread fast. Hashtags turned ugly. Shaq Junia unstable. Shaq fabricated claims. News anchors debated my credibility. I collapsed on the couch, shaking. "Maybe I can't beat this, Mara. Maybe they'll always twist it until I'm the villain." Mara crouched in front of me, eyes blazing. "No, listen to me. They're scared. That's why they dug this low. They know they're losing control." Omar leaned forward, determination in his eyes. Then we hit back harder, not with emotion, with receipts. And Evelyn, calm, steady Evelyn, said, "Junia, you need to show them you're not just a victim. You're a builder. Take this beyond you. Make it about all of us." Her words lodged deep. Maybe that was the answer. Not just defense, not just my story, but amplifying the hundreds of stories piling into the Academic Truth Project, turning the narrative from Junia versus Langford into something no smear could shrink. That night, I drafted another piece. This time, it wasn't about me at all. It was a compilation, testimonies, evidence, voices too many to silence. I titled it, "We Are Not Silent Anymore." As I hit publish, my pulse raced, because this wasn't just my war anymore. It was everyone's. And I knew Langford's counterstrike had failed in one key way. By trying to bury me, he'd just exposed the movement. The article, "We Are Not Silent Anymore," went live at dawn. By noon, it was everywhere. News outlets picked it up, podcasts dissected it, and hashtags surged. We're not silent, academic truth. Justice for students. My inbox overflowed with testimonies, each more heartbreaking than the last. A grad student in California who lost her work to a PI. A junior lecturer in Texas blacklisted after reporting misconduct. A postdoc in New York who discovered her boss had stolen her grant proposal, word for word. Suddenly, it wasn't my story anymore, it was ours. CNN replayed clips of student protests across campuses. Young people held signs reading, "Metadata doesn't lie," and "End academic theft." Someone even spray-painted on a campus wall. Junia started it, we'll finish it. For the first time, I felt the movement swelling beyond me, bigger than anything I could control. But Langford wasn't done. The following evening, he resurfaced on national television, flanked by two prominent faculty allies. His voice was smooth, his smile polished. "These allegations," he said, "are part of a coordinated attack. Students often misinterpret the mentorship process, and unfortunately, Miss Cole has let her personal struggles cloud her judgment." He paused, letting the condescension drip. "We must not let internet mobs dictate the future of scholarship. Academia thrives on integrity, and I stand by mine." It was a masterclass in manipulation. And for some, it worked. Commentators debated whether students were weaponizing social media against professors. Headlines questioned, "Whistleblower or fame seeker?" Mara threw a glass across the room when she saw it. "He's trying to gaslight the whole country." Omar remained calm, eyes glued to his laptop. "Let him talk. Every word he says is being fact-checked in real time. He's digging his own hole." And Evelyn, voice low, murmured, "But be careful. A man backed into a corner is the most dangerous kind." She was right, because that night the threats escalated. First came the phone calls, dozens of them, blocked numbers, breathing on the other end. Then a brick smashed through my apartment window, shattering glass across my floor. Attached to it was a note scrawled in black marker. "Stop or else." I sat trembling, glass crunching under my shoes. Mara called the police, who arrived late and uninterested. "Probably just a prank," one officer muttered. A prank? My hands were still bleeding from the shards. But even as fear clawed at me, so did resolve. Because if they were resorting to this, it meant they were losing. The next morning, Evelyn called with urgent news. "The department's board is splitting," she said. "Half want to protect Langford. Half want him suspended. It's chaos in there. You forced their hand, Junia. They can't stay neutral much longer." I pressed the phone to my ear, breath catching. This was it, the breaking point, and I knew the next move would decide everything, whether Langford fell or whether I did. The morning after Evelyn's call, my inbox filled with leaks, anonymous faculty, frustrated staff, even a few brave students. One message stopped me cold. It contained internal emails, board members discussing how to minimize fallout and protect institutional reputation at all costs. One line made my blood run hot. "If Junia persists, we will have no choice but to revoke her degree candidacy. Collateral damage." Collateral damage, that's what I was to them. A piece on a chessboard. Mara paced the room, swearing. Omar typed furiously, encrypting files. Evelyn's voice cracked when she said, "Junia, they're preparing to sacrifice you, unless you make the first move." And I knew she was right. This wasn't just about proving Langford guilty anymore. It was about showing the world the system's rot. So I called the Chronicle journalist again. "I have new evidence," I said. "Not just of plagiarism, of institutional cover-up." We arranged an emergency meeting. I handed her the emails, every line dripping with cowardice. She read them, eyes widening. This isn't just a story about a stolen thesis anymore," she whispered. "This is a scandal that could topple the whole department." By midnight, the article was live. University emails reveal plan to silence whistleblower. The effect was immediate. National news ran with it. Hashtags spiked again. Protesters grew louder. Senators demanded answers. And the board? They panicked. The next day, they announced a special session to review Dr. Langford's status. Behind closed doors, the fight was vicious. Half wanted to cut him loose. Half still clung to him like a lifeboat. Meanwhile, Langford tried one last card. He went on camera, eyes dark, smile gone. "Junia Cole has waged a campaign of destruction against me and against this university. Enough is enough. I will not bow to mobs. I will not admit to crimes I did not commit." But his words rang hollow now. The audience wasn't nodding anymore. They were questioning, doubting. That night, I stood outside the administration building with a crowd of students. Signs lit up in the dark. Chants echoed against the glass. Justice for Junia, and the silence. For the first time, I felt the tide truly turning. But deep down, I knew one thing. If the board didn't act, the movement would have to. And in that moment, as the chants roared around me, I realized we weren't waiting for justice anymore. We were about to demand it. The day of the board's special session felt like the longest day of my life. Outside the administration building, a crowd of students, faculty, and reporters swelled. Cameras flashed. Chants rolled like thunder. Justice for Junia? End the silence. I stood at the edge, my hood pulled up, heart hammering. This wasn't just about me anymore, but still. It was my name on their lips, my fate inside that building. Evelyn squeezed my shoulder. They're scared, Junia. Remember that. Institutions don't hold special sessions unless they're backed into a corner. But fear clawed at me anyway. If they chose Langford, if they revoked my candidacy, I'd lose everything I had fought for. Hours dragged. Reporters shouted questions. Mara paced like a lion, muttering under her breath. Omar tapped at his laptop, monitoring live feeds and rumors trickling from inside. Then, silence. The doors opened. Board members emerged, faces pale, lips tight. Langford walked out moments later, flanked by lawyers. His expression was granite, unreadable. Reporters surged forward. Dr. Langford, are you suspended? Dr. Langford, will you step down? He ignored them, disappearing into a waiting car. Evelyn leaned close. That look, he didn't win. My breath caught. Minutes later, the university released a statement online. Effective immediately, Dr. Malcolm Langford is suspended pending a full investigation. The board recognizes the seriousness of recent revelations and is committed to a fair, transparent process. The crowd erupted. Cheers, screams, tears. Mara hugged me so hard I almost fell over. Omar pumped his fist, grinning wide. But inside me, the victory was complicated. Suspended wasn't the same as removed. Pending investigation wasn't justice. And I knew Langford wouldn't fade quietly. He was too proud, too powerful, too connected. As if to prove it, my phone buzzed with a new email. No sender listed. Just one line. Enjoy your win. It's the last one you'll get. My stomach twisted. Even in defeat, he was reaching for me. But as I looked around at the students chanting, holding signs, filming live for the world to see, I realized something important. Even if they silenced me, they couldn't silence this. The movement had grown beyond my name, and that meant, for the first time, Langford was truly outnumbered. For a few days, I almost let myself breathe. Langford was suspended. The movement was louder than ever. Journalists were circling the university like hawks. But predators don't starve quietly. On the fourth day, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Langford sues Junia Cole for $10 million. What? I froze, the blood draining from my face. The lawsuit claimed defamation, emotional distress, damages to his career. $10 million. I didn't even have 10,000. Mara cursed so loudly the neighbors banged on the wall. This is insane. He's trying to bleed you dry, Junia. Even if you win, the process itself could destroy you. Omar ran his hands through his hair. This is a classic slap suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. He doesn't care if he wins. He just wants to exhaust you, silence you. And Evelyn, voice heavy, whispered, he's playing his last card, power through the courts. If you survive this, Junia, he won't have anywhere left to hide. But survival was the question. Within hours, trolls were screaming online. See, if she had real evidence, she wouldn't be sued. Headlines speculated, whistleblower in trouble. My inbox flooded with messages, some supportive, others venomous. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, $10 million. The number echoed in my skull like a curse. I imagined losing the case, being crushed with debt, spending my life paying for speaking the truth. For the first time since this began, I wondered, was this worth it? Then Mara burst into my room, laptop in hand, eyes wide. Junia, look at this. On the screen was a crowdfunding page. Students had launched it within hours of the lawsuit breaking. The title, Help Junia Fight Back. Donations were pouring in, $5, $10, $50 at a time. Notes scrolled down the page. You speak for us. Stay strong. Truth matters. I covered my mouth, tears burning. The number climbed by the second. Thousands of people, strangers and friends, standing with me. It wasn't 10 million, but it was something money couldn't buy. Hope. The next day, my lawyer, a woman named Denise, fiery and sharp, agreed to take the case pro bono. He thinks money makes him invincible, she said. Let's prove him wrong. The fight was far from over. Langford had resources, allies, an army of lawyers. But for the first time, I didn't feel outnumbered. Because now it wasn't just me versus him. It was all of us versus the machine. Denise's office smelled faintly of coffee and ink. Case files stacked high, sticky notes littered across her desk. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Junia, listen. This lawsuit isn't about winning. It's about crushing you. They'll drag it out for years if they can. My job is to make sure it never gets that far. I nodded, fingers twisting in my lap. So what do we do? She tapped the folder in front of her. We counter, file a motion to dismiss under anti-SLAPP statutes. Show the judge this is intimidation, not justice. And meanwhile, she looked at me firmly. We go public. Shine light where they want darkness. Public. That word terrified me, and yet it was all I had. Outside the office, the world was on fire again. Hashtags surged. Stand with Junia. Slap back. Justice for truth. Donations poured into the crowdfund. Each message a reminder I wasn't alone. But Langford's camp hit harder too. Anonymous blogs accused me of embezzling research funds. A forged screenshot circulated online, making it look like I admitted to lying. My inbox filled with death threats, each uglier than the last. Then came the worst blow. My parents called late one night, their voices trembling. Junia, people have been calling the house, saying you're unstable, dangerous. One of them threatened to burn the place down. I felt the blood drain from me. My fight had reached them. Mara held me as I shook. He's not just coming after you anymore. He's trying to scare you through the people you love. Denise's voice, when I told her, was ice. Then we drag every one of these tactics into daylight. If they want war, we'll show the world exactly how they fight it. The next morning, we held a press conference. Denise stood beside me, fiery and fearless. As I read a short statement, this lawsuit isn't about truth. It's about silence. But I will not be silenced. Not for $10 million, not for threats, not for fear. Flashes exploded. Reporters shouted questions. My knees trembled, but my voice didn't break. That night, the video went viral. Not just the words, but the image. Me standing tall, Denise at my side. The crowd of students chanting behind us. Langford still had money, still had power, but his mask was slipping. Because every desperate smear, every shadowy threat, was proof of one thing. He was losing. The courthouse smelled of old wood and dust. A place where lives had been broken and rebuilt for centuries. I sat at the defendant's table, Denise at my side, her sharp eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Mara and Omar sat behind me, silent pillars of strength. Evelyn entered quietly, giving me a small nod that said, "You're not alone." Then he walked in. Langford, suit pressed, hair perfect, his expression carved from stone. His lawyers flanked him, carrying thick binders, their faces smug. For the first time since my TEDx talk, we locked eyes. He didn't glare, he didn't sneer, he smiled. A slow, deliberate smile that made my stomach turn. The judge entered. All rise. The case began. Langford's lead attorney stood, voice smooth as silk. Your Honor, this is a tragic case of a young student projecting personal grievances onto a respected professor. My client has suffered reputational harm, emotional distress, and irreparable career damage. We seek justice in the amount of $10 million. I felt bile rise in my throat. Then Denise rose. She was fire. Your Honor, this case is not about harm. It is about silencing. This is a textbook SLAPP suit. A wealthy professor weaponizing the courts to bury a whistleblower. We will show not only that the claims against my client are baseless, but that Professor Langford engaged in academic misconduct of the highest order. The courtroom buzzed. Reporters scribbled furiously. The judge banged her gavel for order. The next hours blurred. Langford's lawyers paraded documents, character witnesses, faculty allies who painted me as unstable and confused. Each word was a knife, but Denise cut back. She presented metadata, identical paragraphs from Langford's book and my thesis drafts. Emails leaked from his assistants. testimonies from students across the country. When the judge allowed me to speak, my hands trembled, but my voice didn't break. I never wanted this, I said, eyes on the bench. All I wanted was credit for my work and protection for others like me. Professor Langford stole my ideas, then tried to bury me. If telling the truth is defamation, then so be it. But I won't stop. Not now. Not ever. A hush fell. For a moment, even Langford's mask slipped. His jaw tightened, the smile fading. Denise leaned close, whispering, "He's rattled. Good." As the session adjourned for the day, I walked out of the courthouse with cameras flashing, chants rising from the crowd outside. Langford exited minutes later, and this time, when our eyes met, there was no smile. There was fear. The second day of the trial felt like stepping into a storm. I sat at the witness stand, palms damp, heart thundering. Denise squeezed my hand before I rose. "They'll try to rattle you. Don't let them. Look at the jury. Tell your truth." The judge's voice echoed. "Ms. Cole, you may take the stand." I walked forward, swore the oath, and sat under the glaring lights. Langford's attorney approached, a shark in a tailored suit. His smile was pleasant, but his eyes were knives. "Ms. Cole," he began, "isn't it true you've struggled with mental health issues in the past?" The words hit like a slap. I knew this was coming, the leaked therapy notes, but it still stung. "Yes," I said, steady, like many graduate students. "That doesn't change the facts of my research." He leaned closer. "And isn't it true you once wrote in a private note that you felt paranoid? That you believed people were out to steal from you?" Murmurs rippled through the court. I swallowed, then lifted my chin. "Yes, and I was right." The gallery gasped. Even Denise cracked a small smile. The lawyer's smile faltered. He pressed on. "Ms. Cole, you claim Professor Langford plagiarized your work. Yet you shared drafts with him willingly, did you not?" "Yes, because he was my supervisor. Trust is supposed to be the foundation of that relationship." Or, he countered, pacing slowly, "You misunderstood mentorship for ownership. Isn't it possible Professor Langford was simply guiding you, as mentors often do?" I felt my anger flare. Guidance doesn't mean stealing. Guidance doesn't mean copying my words into a book and erasing my name. That's not mentorship. That's theft. The lawyer stiffened. He shuffled his papers, then tried one last dagger. "Ms. Cole, this crusade of yours has brought protests, negative press, and reputational harm to this university. Do you feel any remorse for the chaos you've caused?" The courtroom held its breath. I looked at the jury, their eyes locked on me. My voice came low, certain. "I feel remorse for every student who stayed silent because they thought no one would believe them. I feel remorse that it took this long for the truth to come out. But for telling the truth? No. I feel no remorse at all." Silence, then a single clap from the gallery before the bailiff barked for order. The lawyer sat down, defeated. Denise rose with quiet pride. "No further questions, Your Honor." As I stepped down from the stand, my knees weak but my spine unbroken, I knew something had shifted. Langford had thrown his sharpest daggers, and I was still standing. The courtroom was silent as the jury filed back in. My heart pounded so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. Mara squeezed my hand from the bench behind me. Omar's eyes were locked on the foreman. Evelyn sat perfectly still, her face unreadable. Denise leaned forward, calm but ready, like a soldier awaiting orders. The judge spoke. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The foreman, a woman with kind eyes, stood. She held a slip of paper. My breath caught. "Yes, Your Honor." Time slowed. "In the case of Langford versus Cole, on the charge of defamation, we find in favor of the defendant, Ms. Junia Cole." The words crashed over me like thunder. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, cries, clapping before the gavel struck for order. Mara screamed with joy, hugging Omar. Evelyn finally let out a trembling sigh, tears in her eyes. I sat frozen. Then Denise put her hand over mine. "You won, Junia. You did it." "Won." The word echoed in my mind. The judge continued. "Furthermore, due to evidence presented, this court recommends a formal inquiry into Professor Malcolm Langford's professional conduct." Langford's face went pale, for once the mask was gone. He wasn't stone. He wasn't smug. He was just cornered. Reporters swarmed as we stepped outside. Microphones shoved toward me. "Junia, how do you feel? What does this mean for students across the country?" I took a breath, my voice steady though my body trembled. "This isn't just my victory. This is a victory for every student who's ever been silenced. stolen from, or told to stay quiet. Let this be the start of change. Not just in this university, but everywhere. The crowd erupted again. Hashtags surged. Cameras flashed. That night, as I lay in bed, exhaustion finally washed over me. For the first time in months, I let myself cry. Not from fear, not from despair, but from relief. Langford would face investigations. The system would be forced to reckon with itself. And I had my life back. But more importantly, I had turned my pain into something larger. Something that couldn't be erased. The story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who chose to stand, to speak, to refuse silence. And as I closed my eyes, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger.